Okay, so I've just come from watching the episode. I took a shower, I got dressed in Wanda clothes, so yay for the outfit. Okay, friends. Okay. So, this is sort of a reaction video. This is going to be the first half of my usual video. Oh my god. So, okay. I've watched the episode. Brilliant episode. But we have to talk about Pietro. Oh my god, we have to talk about Pietro. Okay, I've got Pietro here. He's dusty, I'm sorry. Pietro. Right here. Comics Pietro. Again, dusty. These are my more dusty ones. My other ones are up there, I've shown you them before. But I've told you before that I am the biggest fan of Quicksilver in the comics. Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch in the comics together. I've read pretty much all of their comics. I have all the ones you can get. Like, they're like my specialist subject. I love those twins. So, just going straight in. When I got a feeling that Pietro was going to be in this one, I was hoping. There was that bit earlier in the episode with Wanda and the twins, and they were asking her about, you know, a brother, and then our attention was directed to the door because the dog went to the door, and I thought, oh, is he coming now? No, that was a distraction. And then right at the end, and we saw the back of his head, and I can't tell you, like, my heart just, I stopped breathing for a minute. I could have died. And then we saw his hair, and I was like, oh my god, it's Pietro. And he's in like a leather jacket, and he's like a greaser, you know, and I'm like, perfect. That's where Pietro would be if he was in this era. And then we saw his face, and we saw Wanda's face, and it was Evan Peters. And this is not me getting at Evan Peters, and I'm not disappointed. This is just shock talking right now, because this feels like when a Doctor regenerates from the companion's perspective. So there were rumours a while ago that Evan Peters was going to be in this one. And people were saying, oh, he's going to be playing Quicksilver, and I have no problem with him playing Pietro at all, as I will get to. But my concern was, oh my god, is he going to be playing that character from X-Men? Because I know loads of people love the character from X-Men, and this is no reflection on his acting, because he's brilliant. He's really great as the part, like, he's fantastic. And I will be very excited to see him as Pietro in WandaVision. But that character, that was my stumbling block. It was the character, not the actor, not the idea of the recast, but the character. Because loads of people, like, on Twitter this morning are saying, like, oh, well, Evan Peters' Quicksilver was the best Quicksilver anyway. And, I mean, I know that's personal opinion, but if you read the comics, his character is not Quicksilver. Like, his character in those films, I don't know how to express, is not Quicksilver. Like, if you take Wanda away from Quicksilver, if you take that feeling of protection he has for her, like, his whole life is wrapped around Wanda. Their lives are just so entwined. Like, if you take Wanda out of the equation, you take, well, in the comics it's not Sokovia, but his Eastern European roots out of the equation. If you take all that away, that is not Quicksilver. It's a funny character that runs fast. And actually, it's very much like Speed. So Tommy Shepard, he's going to grow into a character a bit like the X-Men Quicksilver. So when he showed up at the door, my first reaction was, like, after I'd got over the shock, I didn't know how to feel, because Darcy said she's recast Pietro, and I'm so confused I don't know how to feel, because the fact that they've acknowledged the recast means that within the story the recast is important. So it's not just like, oh, this is the same Pietro we were seeing before, and it's just a different actor playing him. They're not doing it like that. They're not just simply changing the actor. They're actually acknowledging the recast in the world of the show. So what does that mean? So earlier in the episode, Wanda said that she can't bring back things that are dead. So presumably she can't bring back things like the dog that died. So potentially she has created, well, we know that she's created a new Pietro, but we know she can't just, like, create things, or maybe she can. I mean, she's created the twins, but we think that's to do with Mephisto. But usually she has to have something there, so the people in Westview are people with lives, and obviously Vision, she's got Vision's body. We found out this is taken from Vision Quest from the West Coast Avengers, I believe, which I will show you later on in the video when I've calmed down a bit. But the idea being with this, I think that because Pietro is dead and she doesn't have his body, she can't physically bring him back. So it seems that she's either controlling somebody else who isn't Pietro and making them act like they're Pietro, which would be an amazing part of this story if they go with that. Or, we know this is leading into the Multiverse of Madness. Has she gone into the multiverse because she wants Pietro so badly, and she's plucked out a different Pietro? Now, I love that. I love that. Like, I just want to say, I think that's beautiful. This Pietro, so we might still be getting Aaron Taylor-Johnson, I pray, because he was honestly the perfect Pietro. Not saying Evan Peters can't be, as long as he acts the same. But the thing that's so special about Pietro and Wanda, I mean, if you have a sibling yourself, just basically talking, if anything ever happened to Dan, God forbid, you know, and I had reality warping powers and I wanted to bring him back, I might recast him, you know, with a different face because I couldn't get his actual face back, but this person would have to have Dan's memories and his mannerisms. We'd have to have a shared history together, otherwise the connection wouldn't be there. And I watch a lot of soap, you know that, I'm a bit obsessed with the British soaps, and there's recasts all the time, so I don't mind the recast, but it's so important to me that if this is our Pietro, if this isn't a trick, if he isn't Mephisto masquerading as Pietro, if this isn't a learning experience for Wanda where she realises that it's not working because this isn't her Pietro, if this is Pietro and this is going to be our Pietro going forward, it's so important that he has those same memories and he has that same life with Wanda and that she's given him the same backstory, the same history. Like, it's so important. I don't mind the recast. Aaron Taylor-Johnson was perfect to me. I don't understand people who don't think he was, because that was a young comics Quicksilver. It was brilliant. But I do not mind the recast because I read the comics. That's where I got so obsessed with Wanda and Pietro from. And in the comics, the art style's changing all the time anyway, so you're constantly seeing different versions of the character. It's the same personality, the same backstory, but you're constantly seeing them revamped, you know, different outfits, different styles of drawing. I'm all for that. I think what's thrown me is just that he plays Quicksilver in the X-Men universe and that Quicksilver is not Quicksilver. As long as he's playing Quicksilver, it's fine. But, like, he has to be comics Quicksilver. I know there's loads of people who love the X-Men universe. I know that, they love his character. But that character will not work in this show. And I'm pretty sure that's not the character that's come into this show. I'm pretty sure that Wanda has just found a Pietro from another universe, from the multiverse, and because she can't have her Pietro back, she's tried to bring him in. So yeah, I think that's what threw me most of all. But I don't mind a recast. Like, I love soaps, I watch a lot of soaps, like the comics are constantly changing the faces of the characters. That's fine. But just please have the memories of Pietro. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about how beautifully tragic it could be if he is our Pietro going forward. I still have hope that Wanda might realise that I can't just recast my brother and when she opens the multiverse she'll get her brother back. I don't know where Aaron Taylor-Johnson is, like, Aaron, where are you? But it might be that he didn't want to come back for personal reasons, which is fine. But this Pietro, like, his backstory needs to make sense in terms of their dynamic, because it's not just that you can replace her brother, especially with these characters, because they're so tied together, like, their whole lives. They're so, like, they have grown up with each other as their only family. They are so close, and that bond, you can't just like put a new character in, like the bond has to have grown over years. And I was talking to Dan about this. As soon as I finished the episode this morning, I was messaging Dan and I was crying with like happiness and sadness, and like the last shot of Wanda hugging her brother, Vision looking at him and being like, I thought your brother was dead, maybe realising that's a different face, what's going on here? I don't know what Wanda was thinking. Was Wanda, first of all, thinking, I don't know if this works, I'm gonna try it, like, we just don't know. But I was thinking, if Wanda has opened the multiverse, and this is Quicksilver, so this isn't the X-Men version, like, let's just say he's just a character with the same face, but this is a real Pietro Maximoff from another universe, like comics Pietro, like Aaron Taylor-Johnson's Pietro with the same soul and everything. If he is here, and he is from the multiverse, potentially, he needs to have had his own Wanda for him to be his character, for him to be his personality. And if this Pietro is going to go forward, so just imagining like the beautiful ending that Wanda manages to bring the kids and Pietro and Vision all out of Westview and back into the real world at the end of the show. Please, please. He needs to have that connected relationship with Wanda in his past. If he's from the multiverse, then he would have had his own Wanda, presumably, to make him that character. And Dan and I were just discussing this, and what if he is a Pietro that, in his version of events, in Age of Ultron, it was Wanda that died? So I kind of love that idea. I love the idea that he is a Pietro who's also searching for his Wanda because they're twin souls, and I kind of like the idea that in the multiverse, wherever they are, the souls will kind of find each other. Because otherwise I can't see Pietro staying, because his personality is, no, I need to go back to my Wanda, is she alright, I need to get back to her. He would kill anyone that tried to part them. So I just need to wait and see. I don't know. I'm not disappointed, I'm just shocked and confused because it's the cliffhanger. Yeah, I mean, I trust Kevin Feige because he's got everything right so far. I mean, I will talk about the twins in a bit. I mean, I've seen the twins. I've seen Billy and Tommy, like, I can't believe it. But I mean, I just have to reserve judgment. I mean, Aaron Taylor-Johnson was, for me, the perfect Pietro. He's the one that I would want to come back. I just think his mannerism, everything, his look, it was just so suited to comics Quicksilver. And then I'm thinking, because we're going into the multiverse, is there any reason why we wouldn't get the real Pietro from another universe as well? Like, could we get both of them? We know that we're going to see multiple versions of Spider-Man, for example, in the future, from the multiverse. So, would we be able to see multiple versions of Pietro? Will we get our Pietro back? I just don't know how they're going to play it. Like, when Wanda saw him at the door, it wasn't like, that's my brother. It was confusion, like, but I'm going with it sort of thing. Like, she's willing him alive. And I do love that for her. I do love for her character the idea that she is so desperate for Pietro. She hasn't been able to create him. And now she's got the twins and they're like these close brothers. She's just thought, I need my brother. Especially the fact that this is after her and Vision are starting to have problems. So they're starting to fight at this point. And Wanda's instinct seems to be her brother. Get her brother to protect her. Like, things are falling apart with Vision, but who can she always rely on? Who can Wanda, the real Wanda in the comics, as a personality, who can she always rely on? Pietro. They always have each other. In the comics, Pietro even says, we Maximoffs, we only have each other and that's all we'll ever need. Obviously, as they get older, they branch out more and their lives become more healthy, but they are still always there for each other. And I kind of love the idea that he arrived at this point, like this point of turmoil in Wanda's life, was when she just thought, no, I need my brother. I need my brother here because I can't cope with this. And I do love that. I have to admit, I absolutely love it. I cannot wait to see what they do with this going forward. I cannot wait to see a version of Pietro with the twins. I guess my hope, if I could choose what was going on, is that Wanda would have the next episode with this Pietro, but she'd start to realise that she can't force it to work. Similar to her whole situation with Westview, it's kind of, you know, one of the threads that goes through this whole story, isn't it? The idea that she's desperately trying to make these things work. She's trying to make a happy life for her and Vision, but Vision is obviously, he's got his own mind and she can't control that, so he doesn't want it. The people in Westview, she wants them to be living these happy lives and be sort of background characters, but it's starting to fall apart because, I mean, for example, this episode, Agnes kind of scared me and everyone else by saying, do you want me to hold the twins? Like, what should I do? Like, she's being directed. It would very much fit the theme that the same thing happens with Pietro. So she's tried to create Pietro, or I don't know how she's done it. You know, is it someone else's body? Is she forcing them to act like Pietro? Are they another person that she's making act like her brother? Like she's puppeteering them? I kind of like the idea of that falling apart as well, and her realising that this isn't working, like that. This isn't Pietro, that's not what he'd do, you're not acting like him. Especially because part of their dynamic is that Pietro is very forthright, he can be quite arrogant, and he would contradict Wanda. So he's not so easy as Vision to sort of, I know Vision is sort of starting to twig now, but he's more easygoing, more gentle, so it's kind of easier with him to puppeteer him in a way. With Pietro, the real Pietro, if you think about Pietro from Age of Ultron, and from the comics of course, he would be able to call Wanda out straight away, and it'll be interesting to see if in Wanda's version of him, her puppeteering him, if she won't be able to retain that because she won't want somebody to go against her. But of course, when you're close to someone and you love them and they are your sibling, you have a bond where you can have those conversations. Pietro would ask questions, he would wonder what's going on. So yeah, this is going to be so interesting to me, and I don't know what to expect going forward. I mean, I cried this morning. Like, just the thought of her, I think it was the sadness of it. Like, I thought it would be joyful, and I think because it works better because it's not Aaron Taylor-Johnson and it is someone new, because that could have been a joyful moment, but it actually adds to that sense of tragedy because it's so painful. Like, it's so lovely that she's tried to create her brother, but the tragedy that death is so, I don't know, she can't get him back, and she's doing everything to try and get him back. And the idea that she potentially might have torn open the multiverse to try and get her brother back, because he's the only one she can rely on. I mean, that's them. She's tried all this, even Vision is starting to go against her, but she knows she can always rely on Pietro. Like, it's making me emotional. It's making me emotional just thinking about it, because it's just them. It's just them from the comics. Of course, there's also I'm getting emotional. Of course, there's also the idea that he could be Mephisto. I spoke to Dan about this ages ago when we thought, oh, because we did consider that maybe there might be a recast or Evan Peters as Pietro for a while. And there could be some reason that Mephisto might not want Pietro to be there, or it might break the illusion that Wanda can't have him there. So in a panic, he turns himself into Pietro, and he is able to kind of control Wanda better if he's in the form of somebody that she loves. So that could be interesting. Obviously in the other episodes we believe Mephisto has been animals so far, so he could be the dog, maybe, but it looks like the dog died. Did the dog die and then he took the form of Pietro so that he can further influence Wanda? If Mephisto's even the villain, I don't even know what they're doing with it. I will talk more about this in a bit, but yeah, I mean, I am such a Pietro Maximoff fan, like such a Quicksilver fan. I just love him from the comics and that whole dynamic, and you know I could talk about them forever. And the fact that I just don't know how I feel, because I'm gonna see the Maximoffs, like I'm gonna see Wanda and Vision and the twins and Pietro in a house together, and it's everything I want. But there's also a sense of like uncertainty because I don't know, like, and it's good because the show is supposed to make you feel like that. The show is not supposed to make you feel comfortable, it's supposed to make you feel uneasy, like things are going to break down at any moment, like something is slightly off here, something is slightly wrong, but we're going to ignore it because it's good. And that's so clever in that respect, because we're going to be watching this, I'm going to be watching this with Evan Peters, and I'm going to be willing it, and I'm going to be like, oh yeah, this is so great, this is Pietro. But in the back of my mind I'm going to be thinking, how is he here? That's not his face, something's wrong. But yeah, it's going to be a dream because, I mean, we are going to get, I can't believe we're actually going to get Pietro and Vision, like, interacting, and we've got the chance for that comics dynamic, you know, especially if this version of Pietro is either controlled by Mephisto or is Mephisto, we've got an even better drive for them to have that enmity, because Pietro is probably going to be influencing Wanda very heavily, she trusts her brother completely, and Vision is going to find it very, very hard to kind of be heard in that situation. You know, it's going to be really hard for Wanda to choose between Vision and her brother, and it always has been for her in the comics. Okay, right, I'm gonna take a little while to absorb some stuff, and then I'm gonna record the rest of this video, just show you some comic stuff. There isn't too much more I can say. I'll see you in a second for you and a while for me, while I just absorb things and think about Pietro Maximoff and Wanda Maximoff and cry. So yeah, see you in a bit. As I'm back again, I've recovered, it's fine. So I'm going to show you some of this. So this is West Coast Avengers Vision Quest, and this is where they got, I mean, they said when they were making this they were inspired by this comic, and this is pretty much where they got the scene with Wanda breaking into the S.W.O.R.D base, or wherever she broke into. I would be more detailed on this, but it's literally the morning I've watched it. I'm emotional because of Pietro, okay, so just forgive me. But yeah, so in this, so it starts like this. One of our androids is missing, so Wanda wakes up one morning and Vision is not there. She's devastated, she has to go and try and find him, and when she does find him, it looks like this. So it's really a lot like the scene we saw in WandaVision. I'll try and get that on the screen properly for you so you can see a comparison, but it's pretty much the same thing. So what we saw this episode is Wanda, presumably like right after she's been brought back to life and she's battled Thanos, straight after Tony's funeral, she thought, I'm gonna get my man. She went to find Vision's body and realised that they were taking it apart. And that is so horrific, like from a character perspective. I'm a writer, by the way. I'm doing an MA in creative writing and I've done my degree. So yeah, I'm doing my master's, so I think way too deeply about character stuff, so forgive me. But like as a character, the sense of her being with Vision, who is an android or a synthezoid, I mean, they don't really get into it in the MCU. They do much more in the comics. But the sense that to other people, he is not a person necessarily, you know, he is a weapon. He is something that is an object, and that they can take his body, they can do what they want with his body, because to them he's machinery. And Wanda having that grief that he's not even being given the dignity of a person. So I kind of love that she went in there. I mean, it was so scary. I mean, Wanda is scary when she is on the rampage, you know, when she wants something, Wanda will get it. It's like we were seeing her snap, and I feel like we never saw her snap after Age of Ultron. This is when all this started. It started when she lost Pietro, which obviously the show's really getting into. I mean, that is when this spiral began. She kept it back. She kind of managed to push her grief aside because she had Vision. But as soon as Vision was taken away, all of it just hit her, and she's out of control now. I mean, Wanda is dangerous. We saw how dangerous she was in Endgame. I mean, they even say in the episode that, you know, she could have taken down Thanos by herself. And I know they say that possibly Carol could have done the same thing. Personally, I think Wanda's a little bit more powerful than Carol, but, you know, I'm not pitting them against each other. But what we know is that Wanda has now got Vision's body, or what is left of it, you know. So she's gone somewhere with that body and she's used her powers, but we don't know how she's managed to do this, because this is a difference from her usual powers. So this is why it's pretty certain that, like, Mephisto or the Grim Reaper or someone has something to do with this, and she's made a deal with them, because it's a huge leap for her. You know, she is hugely powerful, but we haven't seen her master those powers. She hasn't done anything of this scale before. So it's likely that she took Vision's body and she went to someone for help, or that person, that sinister person, came to her and made her a deal. So possibly Mephisto is doing this, I still think. They continue to delight me with Jimmy and Darcy and Monica. I mean, Monica is everything you want in a hero, for me anyway. She is, like I said before, she's like a Doctor Who companion. Like, she's that level of person. She's so brave, but she's also so compassionate. So I love that when she decided to pilot the drone back into Wanda's universe, you know, her shock when Hayward decides to fire a nuke at Wanda. I mean, it's these little touches that make her, like, companion material, because she is bold and she's brave and she's adventurous, but her compassion is just, it's the same as when she was a kid, because when she was younger, you could tell she'd been brought up really well by her mum and by Carol. And you could see her playing with the Skrull little girl. Like, she's very accepting of differences. I love the line last episode where she was saying to Hayward that there are threats out there, but there's also allies, you know, you've got to see the good in people. And I really hoped they would do this, and they did. And they had Monica coming out of there, and obviously everyone's, like, freaking out and thinking of Wanda as, like, a villain and a terrorist and a weapon. And I love that they had Monica be the person to say, well, okay, she's a danger, but I don't think this is something she's doing to harm people. I don't think she is trying to hurt people. We have to help her. She's a victim. I mean, the scene when Hayward fired the nuke and then Wanda came out of her reality, I just got chills. I mean, Wanda is so powerful. Her accent's back, by the way. I was so happy about that. Her accent's back. It was like watching her step out of the comics. You know, she is the Scarlet Witch at this point. Like, she has become that character. And I feel like she's only just really become her now. You know, it's taken her journey from Age of Ultron for her to become that comics character in her journey. And it's just so exciting. The fact that Monica was so brave, like, stood face to face with her and tried to talk to her and said, look, you know I'm an ally. It was just wonderful. Wanda turning the guns on Hayward was amazing, and I know they might not be doing Wanda and Pietro as Magneto's kids in this version, which is fine, because in the comics right now it's really up in the air. They're not currently, they might be again. But that was very Magneto-ish, I thought. You know, that was a very Magneto move. Wanda is so powerful, and the fact that I just can't believe we've seen this content, you know, because we're used to, I mean, this is a blessing, having this as a TV show, because in the films we're used to each character having a little portion of screen time, unless they're, like, the main focus, like Steve or Tony. And here we have this whole narrative for Wanda. You know, it's insane, the amount of content that we have. I mean, I can't believe it. There's something dodgy about Hayward for sure. So, I didn't talk about him much last episode. Some people are saying they think he's Mephisto. I certainly think he's dodgy. He could have made a deal with Mephisto, maybe to become the head of S.W.O.R.D, potentially. What happened to Maria? I mean, did she actually die of the cancer? Or was it something more sinister? Because this guy's benefited from it, hasn't it? And we know he's dodgy because the signs are all there. He sent a nuke at Wanda, so he seems dodgy. Also, when last episode they're sending an agent in, you know, the beekeeper guy, Jimmy says to him, you know, why would you do that? Because the radius might be like a sphere, like, we don't know. And this guy just shuts Jimmy down. Like, he's just bad vibes. But I was talking to Dan about this, and we know that in the first place, when Monica gets sent to Westview, it's a missing persons case, so there's a missing man. And obviously we've talked about the Grim Reaper a lot. In my first video, I talk a lot about Eric and Simon Williams. I mean, could he be the Grim Reaper? Could this be Eric Williams, and could the missing person be Simon Williams, Wonder Man? we just don't know. Okay, Billy and Tommy. Oh my gosh, my boys. Billy and Tommy. I just love them so, so much. I have every single Young Avengers comic. Every single comic both of them have been in, I'm glad to say. Before, I wasn't sure if I had them all. I did a check and I officially have every single one. So yeah, any questions about the boys, send them my way. But just seeing them, like, as babies, and then as 5-year-olds, and then as 10-year-olds, and just starting to see their little personalities starting to show is so exciting. And if you're not someone who, you know, reads Young Avengers, like, they're probably, like, entertaining because they're magical beings, they can age themselves and all that kind of thing. But, like, the fact that, especially the older two, Billy and Tommy, are starting to take their personalities ever so slightly. Because you can tell that little Tommy's a bit of a cool dude. You could see him with his cool dude hair, with his long hair and everything. Whereas little Billy is trying to, like, train the dog and, like, look after the dog. And I just can't wait to see where the characterisation for them goes. Because at the moment it's still pretty open. At the moment they are just functioning as Wanda and Vision's kids. But there's a sense that they're going to get their own stories. They're starting to realise stuff is wrong. I mean, that's quite freaky, isn't it? I mean, the kids are starting to realise there's an issue here. I mean, the kids must have been there when the nuke hit, which explains why Wanda went so ballistic on S.W.O.R.D, because these are her kids, and a nuke was literally fired at her 10-year-old children. And what that must mean to her as a character as well, if we look at her backstory, we think about the fact that she's Sokovian, a country where Tony Stark's weapons were used and so many people from her country were killed because of American interference and bombs. So that's her nightmare. You know, a bomb being sent towards her twins is her nightmare. She probably wiped their memories because in the next scene they're fine again. And also, I mean, it's so sad because if these children are a part of Mephisto, they seem to have their own personalities. I don't think they're being controlled by Mephisto, but I think that they probably are still part of his soul. It's just the perfect way to keep Wanda in check, isn't it, really? Because she will maintain that world, even if she thinks it's wrong, because she's now a mother. I mean, she might have wavered when it came to Vision, because as much as she loves Vision, obviously he's an independent person and we can see there's friction starting to happen here. But that's not going to happen with her kids, and that's the Wanda that we know from the comics. This is a woman who is kind and is gentle and is usually the sort of less forthcoming. Like when she's with Pietro, she's the more gentle one, Pietro is the more confident one, and he kind of looks after her a bit. But there is a really terrifying strong side to Wanda, and this happens when it comes to her family. So if in the comics somebody hurts Vision or someone hurts Pietro, but especially her children, they are her weak spot. Anything happens to her kids, you do not want to know what happens next. And I love just about Wanda's character. I could talk forever about what I love about her, but she is such a powerful female character, and I think there is a tendency, or there has been recently, to make female characters that are strong literally quite like, we can do it as well as the men, and we can fight, and we can like punch and everything. But Wanda's always kind of retains her femininity, and that's something I can't praise the comics for this, because especially it depends the era and it depends the writer. I mean, there's been some sexist storylines in Marvel and some sexist tropes over the years. But I think at the moment, and in the MCU, this is a character whose aims are, she wants peacefulness and gentleness and to have her family around her, and she wants safety and security. And there's nothing shameful about that. You know, she's still a powerful character. But I just love that about her, you know. I love the sort of feminine nature of Wanda, and it makes her different to so many of the other characters in the MCU. I still don't know what to make of Agatha, because at the start we thought that she was kind of in league, didn't we, with the Grim Reaper or with Mephisto or something. But she is now acting. I mean, this is full Truman Show at this point. I mean, Vision is going through the nightmare of the Truman Show. The scene in the office where the email or the information came through from S.W.O.R.D is quite terrifying. I mean, I felt so sorry for Vision. He doesn't know what's going on, but this dream world that Wanda's created is actually turning out to be Vision's nightmare, really. But again, I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I've spoken to Dan about this a lot, but if you watch Black Mirror, not Be Right Back, I've mentioned that one before. That's a good watch if you like WandaVision. But there's another episode called USS Callister, and it's about a guy who is a bit of an introvert, and he's a coder or something, I think, and he's a bit bullied in the office, but he develops the technology to take the DNA of the people he works with and put them into his virtual reality, only they have their personalities and their awareness from the outside. So they're stuck in this virtual reality, and in this reality he can patch in and he can be the captain of their ship. But he turns into a tyrant, and they end up having to desperately try and appease him because they realise They are there for him, they are basically his playthings, and it's terrifying. And obviously it's a bit different to this because Wanda doesn't have any ill intent, but it's very similar to SS Callister, so I would really recommend that episode. It's a fantastic episode of television. But just thinking about Wanda and Vision's dynamic, I mean, this is so well written from a comics perspective, because their clash has always been, Wanda is emotional, and she probably values loyalty over justice sometimes. So because it was only her and Pietro, and then it was her and Vision, she's a vulnerable character. She's very loving, she's very compassionate, she over-emotes. She will put personal relationships before other things sometimes. But Vision is the opposite, because he is order and she is chaos. So as we've seen in the MCU, Vision was made to be good and pure, and he will save the most amount of people that he can. He'll put aside his personal feelings and his personal wants, and he'll do what is right. And that's why he could pick up Mjolnir and Wanda probably couldn't. But this is so excruciating when you make them a family and you give them kids, because you kind of empathise more, even though she's doing the wrong thing, you kind of empathise more with Wanda and you understand Wanda more, because it is so human to do anything to protect your family. Because Wanda isn't an attacker, but she will defend her family. And this is where their conflict always happens in the comics, because Vision doesn't see the world like that. He loves his family so much, he loves Wanda, but he also feels a bigger calling and a bigger responsibility to the world. And that's where they differ, that's where they clash, and that's kind of what we're starting to see in this episode. So as much as it pains me to see conflict between them, because they're my joint favourite MCU couple, as well as Teddy and Billy of course, this is what we need to see with them. This is what makes their relationship so fascinating. Now I was wondering, and again I've only seen this morning, I haven't looked at theories or anything, I might be totally wrong, but when Monica's getting scanned at the lab after she's been in Wanda's world, and they can't make out anything on the scan, is that because she's got her powers? Did she get her powers from being thrown out of Wanda's universe? I mean, is she already superpowered? We don't know, but that would be so exciting if that was her origin and she's already got them. I just can't believe that I have the twins and Wanda and Vision on screen together as a family, like to actually watch the twins grow up together. Oh my lord. And it's so funny as well, like this show tonally is everything I like. You know, I like that it's creepy, but it's also funny and it's kind of heartwarming, but there's something off balance about it, you know, there's something psychologically off. And I just love that. Like the fact that Wanda's trying to run the credits over Vision's face, like really trying to cut him off with the credits, but she can't do it. The fake baby photos of Vision at the beginning was so funny, but also somehow so creepy. The whole thing was creepy. And I think the opening was based on family ties. I'm not sure. There's an episode I watched with Tom Hanks in it as the drunk uncle, which will probably be the sort of character that Pietro's playing next episode, the brother of the wife that comes to stay and causes trouble. I'm pretty sure that's the opening to Family Ties they've emulated with that. But yeah, very excited and overwhelmed. Like this show is an absolute gift. It really is a gift. Like the only thing I would say is, you know, where is Aaron Taylor-Johnson? Where are you? Where are you? But no, I'm very excited. I'm extremely excited to see what they do with Pietro, and I can't even make up my mind until I see where they're going with it, you know? Like, I can't even judge it until I see if this is supposed to be the same person with just a different face, or if it's supposed to be an alternate Pietro, or if it's supposed to be Mephisto as Pietro. Like, until we know what's going on, it's impossible to judge. So I'm just so excited. They haven't made any missteps so far, so I'm pretty sure whatever they do will be exciting. It's an adjustment, like, but again, I think that's part of the idea of this anyway. I think that we are supposed to feel that uncomfortableness that Vision's feeling and that maybe Wanda's feeling deep down. We're supposed to feel that something's slightly off, you know? That's part of the tone of the show, that everything's so happy, Wanda's got her brother back, but there's a feeling of, ooh, I don't know if this is right, like something feels weird here. So yeah, thank you for watching this. I will see you next week. I think it's the Halloween episode. I'm so excited. I just want to see more of the twins, and I'm so excited to see what they do with Pietro. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, please come back. Please come back. I love you. But also, Evan Peters, you have my full support as long as you're playing, you know, Pietro. Love you, lates, and I will see you really soon. Bye!